Dane Bradshaw is with us. We could call Dane Bradshaw segment court proceedings.
No.
Like the basketball
court, yes.
Yeah, he's with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. What's up, Dane? How are you?
I'm great. How about you guys?
Doing awesome. March. Yeah, welcome to March. I mean, when you were in the locker room, you guys made some runs at Tennessee. When you were in the locker room, did it have a different feeling when the calendar flipped back in the day?
Oh, I think the urgency was there already. I can't say that it flipped that much, but you could certainly feel the SEC tournament around the corner, which was never kind to us. Selection Sunday is arguably the most enjoyable day of the year, obviously, if you're on the right side of it. But we had 2 years where we weren't a part of it, 2 years where we were solidly in, so I don't know what it's like to be sitting there hoping your name gets called. It was a matter of when our name would get called. And it's such an awesome time. You can't sit there and reflect, but you have a chance to take a deep breath, celebrate what you've accomplished, to get in that small field. You find out who your opponent is, of course, and you start to focus on them. But for us, typically, it was practice that day where you kind of focus on yourself and then have that watch party in the afternoon. And the first time having that, you realize, man, just how much you've been missing out on when you didn't make the tournament. And I certainly feel for those guys who are on the wrong side of it.
Hey, after an Elite Eight run, there was a lot of expectation, Eric Musselman and this Arkansas team. And, early on they lost 5 of 6, Dane, and now they've reeled off 13 of their last 14. And we know Note is a difference maker. Is this Arkansas team one that you trust to make a deep March run and possibly even end up in New Orleans?
I trust them to get to the Sweet 16. After that, I'd be really impressed if they can repeat, and that doesn't mean they can't. They've been so good at Bud Walton Arena. I was impressed that they got that win on the road at Florida. Yeah, and you're right. I mean, the way they've turned it on, you can't deny. I've had them.
Well, I think we lost Dane's connection there. We'll try to reconnect with Dane Bradshaw as he was talking about what Arkansas is doing in basketball. A trio of games, 4 games tonight, but 3 of them with some importance. One of those includes Florida on the road at Vandy tonight. Mike White, the discussion about his job future. Tricky game for him tonight at Vandy. It will be a tough loss with them on the bubble to lose that one, and that's a pick 'em on the betting line. That's a tough place for Florida to be tonight.
Well, it is. I mean, they can't afford anything right now. There's a chance, depending on which bracketologist you believe, they not only need to continue winning, but maybe even need to win some games in Tampa to help their cause.
That's right. And a loss at Vandy is not going to help
No,
him
not at all.
or their case. Also, Ole Miss is at Kentucky tonight. That's an ESPN game, the Kentucky brand. And then number 13, Tennessee, is at Georgia. Nothing to follow up a great win over Auburn like hitting the road and pound on Georgia a little bit over in Athens.
That's absolutely right. I want you to pick up. We got interrupted. You were talking about Arkansas. You said you had them a couple times this year. But Note feels like a guy, Dane, we see this, that can take a team on his back in the NCAA tournament. We often see that.
He has, and he can guard your best player on one end of the court. He can play 37, 38 minutes a game. He can be the distributor. He can be the primary scorer. He's got some complementary parts, but I've been just so incredibly impressed at his stamina, his conditioning, how much they use him. And the kid just doesn't blink. He's an extremely quiet kid from humble beginnings, and he just goes out there and balls, man. But the way they lock down defensively and how they scout the personnel, and they are an SEC leading three-point percentage defense is around 28%. So they're winning the three-point battle. They don't have a ton of three-point shooters on their team, but they still manage to win that battle within the game based on their defense. And like a lot of these top 4 teams, man, you got Auburn, Arkansas, Tennessee, and these guys, they're all – what makes them so great is the fact that they can withstand scoring droughts because their defense is so good. Auburn's rim protection. Kentucky can get down and guard. Arkansas has shown what they can do. And Tennessee, same way. I mean, they just get live ball turnovers. It might not be a thing of beauty offensively, but we've got some of the best defensive teams in the country in the SEC. I'm
interested as a former player. The only game Arkansas has lost in the stretch was in Tuscaloosa at Alabama when Note got into foul trouble early. I mean, I feel like it was the first 2 minutes, and with 2 fouls, he got sat the rest of the half and just barely got into double digits scoring wise and just was never into the flow of game. As a former player, when you got 2 early fouls, did you like to sit the rest of the half? Did you want to keep playing? Could you trust yourself? How would you do that if you were a coach?
I like playing them. Now, I think you can play it by ear, and you sit them on the bench and you say, all right, let's see how long we can either maintain this lead or just tread water. But if it starts to break away from you, I throw them in there and play them. Of course, there's no risk to me. I'm just sitting on the sidelines. But, you get towards the end of the game, and you're like, oh, great. He only had 4 fouls. He didn't foul out. But it makes you wonder, all right, how many more minutes could we have gotten out of him, with that in mind. So if it happens real early, that might be one thing, and you got to use them sparingly. But that loss at Alabama, I thought actually Arkansas had a lot of good takeaways there. They handled success well after that win against Auburn. They were mentally locked in. They just didn't play well. They had some things go against them, but they showed some maturity, and to show that they could go to Alabama, lose by 1 possession with all those things, and not play their best, I thought showed a lot of positives for them.
Now that Washington and Wheeler are back in this lineup for Calipari, do you believe ultimately Kentucky ends up being the best team in the SEC?
Well, you still favor them a lot at the SEC tournament, even though Big Blue Nation's going to have to travel a little further this year to Tampa. But it all depends on their health. And right now, Ty Washington doesn't appear to be 100%. If he is 100%, his mindset and confidence isn't 100%, which can be equally troubling. And so they don't have what I would call a ton of depth there. But the thing is, kind of like Auburn. Like, people are like, hey, Auburn's teetering a little bit. Yeah, but okay, so they've lost a few games on the road, overtime at Bud Walton Arena where they could have won, 1 possession game at Florida, and then Thompson Bowling Arena, and the exhaustion of going on the road. But to me, like, that doesn't make me believe any less than Auburn. Yeah, they've got their warts. Their guard play needs to be better. And same with Kentucky with some things here and there. But neutral court, like, you still like those teams being very much a contender for Elite 8, Final Four, maybe even the national title. Because, Gonzaga just went on the road as well. You saw what happened to the top 6 this week of the AP top 10. So every team has a few shortcomings, but I don't lose any confidence on the SEC's top 4, especially when they go out and lose a road game.
Dane Bradshaw with us for a few more moments, SEC Network. He is with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. If I said, Dane, in the month of March, this one Alabama player can ill afford an off night and Alabama still advance, who would that guy be?
Quinterly, and I'll define off night. To me, that is poor decision making, bad defense. Like, I think his points will come. They need him to be the smartest guy on the court that can calm things down and run things in the half court. We know what he can do in the full court and when the game's free flowing, but can he really run the show for them? And on one end, try to be sort of the head of the snake defensively, and on the other end, be the quarterback of the team. And because I just don't, I know Coach Oates, he has his discipline. I don't doubt that, and I know he and I admire him for sitting some of his best players down. But if Javon Quinterly is having to be sent a message in March and he's sitting on the sidelines for long periods of time, it makes you wonder if it's too late. He's got to be in the game, and the way he stays in the game is by not having an off night on defense and ball control, limiting turnovers.
Other than wearing 2 sneakers to play the game, your game back in the day and John Morant, what did y'all have in common? Just give me one aspect of your game.
Recruited by a lot of mid-majors. How about that?
That's a good answer. You both have played a lot of basketball in Memphis. Can we throw that one in there?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. No, he's the best. That it's kind of like Jaden Ivey at Purdue right now. You've got Jabari Smith and Chet Holmgren and all these guys, but when Zion was coming out, I was like, oh, you can't pass on Zion. I'm like, no, man, John Morant's something different. And Greg Oden and Kevin Durant back when I was playing, everybody was the sure thing was Greg Oden. You can't pass up on the big man. I'm like, no, it's KD. And that's how I felt about John Morant. And that's where I'm leaning towards on guys like Jaden Ivey.
Wow, he's a stud. There's no doubt. All right, he is Dane Bradshaw. You can follow him on Twitter at Dane Bradshaw. See him on the SEC Network. Dane, thank you for the time. Enjoy the month of March. Always fun talking with you.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, take care. Dane with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.